comes through. Fresh start in the morning blue. Hey, now blue sky shining down. Left your feet, don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day. Coffee steaming, a smile breaks free. Simple joys are enough for me. Stones roll out, but I don't mind. Sun's still waiting on the other side. Turn it up, feel the sound. Good vibrations all around. Hey, now blue sky shining down. Lift your feet, don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day. No heavy weight, no looking back. Just open roads and a steady track. Hands in the air, feel the sway. Let the light carry us away. Wake up, sunlight tapping on the door. Feels like I've been here all before. Radio humming, the world feels right. Every little thing's in tune tonight. Shadows fade, the truth comes through. Fresh start in the morning blue. Hey now, blue sky shining down. Lift your feet, don't touch the ground. Laugh it off, let the good times stay. Oh yeah, it's a blue sky day.
Hey, good morning. You're listening to Conservative Cat. I appreciate you being here this morning. So much to get to. The Australian Prime Minister, he finally figured out what inspired the Bondi Beach terrorists. I kind of put two and two together yesterday. It was a Hanukkah event with 2,000 Jews, and these were Muslim men. I think we all kind of knew the motive. Ethnically motivated, racially motivated, religiously motivated. I'll get into more of that this morning. Rob Reiner's son arrested and charged with the murder, and he's being held on a $4 million bail. $4 million bail. So he's got to post 10% of that. Sure he did, but Rob Reiner's son, Nick Reiner. So we're going to be chatting about Trump's Truth Social post too. That's really taken social media by storm. And yesterday I said, like, I'm not going to talk ill of Rob Reiner. I respect that he's a titan in the film industry. And I said that we did not agree politically at all. He was a big purveyor of the Russia collusion hoax. He has Trump derangement syndrome. Yes. So we're going to talk about the Truth Social post because I read it and I don't know. I interpreted it like much differently than the rest of the internet. I read it and I was like, man, he was really nice. And now you've got Republicans everywhere saying, like, how dare Donald Trump? Even like, I think it was like Riley Gaines. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course. But a lot of Republicans have come out and like condemned the post. And I'm like sitting here and I've read it 100 times and I'm like, I really don't see what he said so wrong here. I didn't comment a ton on Rob Reiner's politics yesterday. I just didn't think it was really relevant. But being that his son is now the alleged murderer, I think we can chat a little bit about not necessarily his politics, but who Rob Reiner was and what ultimately led to his death. That was hard to do yesterday because we didn't know who. Like this early in the morning, I didn't know who. We still don't. I mean, he's going to have to, answer to the charges. But I mean, now that we know who, I can kind of talk about Rob Reiner's character. And I just don't see anything wrong with the Trump Truth Social post. To be frank with you, I thought it was much more tame. I thought Donald Trump might have commented on it and would have been more bold. But he was very respectful. He said, "Rest in peace." He, extended condolences. So I don't know what people want from Trump. I just don't get it. You also have to expect this kind of stuff from President Donald Trump. I mean, you don't expect it from you don't expect a cat to bark, right? So I kind of expected, him to take a jab at Rob Reiner because Rob Reiner hated him. Like when I say hated him, viciously hated him. TDS, and for him to come out and express condolences, it would be odd for him not to address the elephant in the room that Rob Reiner did not like him. So we're gonna discuss it because it's taken the internet by storm. So ethics meltdown. I also want to talk about this. You guys know it's an Illinois focused show. If you're just joining me today, subscribe to the channel. We focus on Illinois politics. I do some national stuff as well, but I'm going to talk about this 4,000 complaints because this is shocking to me. Nearly 4,000 complaints explode. These complaints explode under President. Freudian slip. He's running for president possibly in 2028. We'll have to see. But Governor J.B. Pritzker, there's been a lot of complaints against the state agencies issued. Okay, we're talking fraud, corruption. And Governor J.B. Pritzker was asked about this explosion of complaints against his state agencies. And I say this all the time, that Republicans we've got to put so much into the Illinois Republican gubernatorial race. We've got to pick one guy and we've got to throw all our eggs in that basket because the only way we're going to change Illinois at this point is a change in the executive branch. You can try to chip away at the Democrat supermajority, but it's a supermajority, and that's going to take years. I would say a solid 5 to 10 years to even begin to chip away at that majority, the supermajority that they have. And to be honest with you, the legislature, they don't do much. They pass these stupid bills, and really, it's all up to the governor to sign it. I think that the executive branch, we need somebody in there because these state agencies are really running the show. The legislature, your elected officials, they don't know what's going on. They don't even read the bills. I'm telling you that they don't read the bills. Most of the time during session, they're just passing bills to rename stretches of highway. There's no meaningful legislation coming out of that place. It's just bogus legislation or legislation pushed by the governor's cronies. And they push it in the middle of the night. There's no say. So, for example, the assisted physician of suicide, there was a Medicaid omnibus bill where now you, the taxpayer in Illinois, has to pay for women to have abortion doulas. So people don't have you hold your hand during your chemical abortion. Didn't even know that was a thing. It's kind of an oxymoron. A doula is supposed to assist women in birth and life and giving birth. But yet the abortion doulas can assist in ending life. It's an oxymoron, but you have to pay for not only the abortion, but you also have to pay for the woman to have a little, life coach alongside her, doula, while she gets the abortion. So it's a nightmare. That was passed in the middle of the night. There is no point to the legislature. Like, Republicans in the legislature, they don't even have to show up until it would make no difference if they showed up or not. They pass it in the middle of the night. It's usually the governor's cronies who pass these things. Anyway, so what we need to do is change out that executive branch, and we need leadership change, because a lot of these state agencies, they're running the show. They're defrauding, or they're frauding the taxpayer, and we're going to get to that. And guess what, Governor J.B. Pritzker, when he was asked about the 40,000 or the 4,000 complaints, this rise in ethics complaints lodged against these state agencies, guess what he said? He says, good. So we're going to get to it here in just a little bit. But let's first start with the press conference held by Australian officials. So this happened Sunday, this terrorist attack. They targeted Hanukkah, this Hanukkah celebration. I think the last time I looked at the death toll, it was 15, 16. And I mean, it's probably more than that today. There were 40 people in the hospital yesterday, over 40. And it was a terrorist attack. It was a Hanukkah celebration. There were Jewish people there. About 2,000 were in attendance. The Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese. So this is the Prime Minister of Australia. He said that it appears that the attack was inspired by a terrorist organization, ISIS. See, I didn't know which terrorist organization, but yesterday, like, nobody wanted to say. They said, oh, we don't know the motive, but, it's Jews killed and think Jews were targeted here. Well, then we know the motive. It was racially, ethnically, religiously motivated. Like, all day yesterday, they wouldn't come out and say that this was a Muslim father-son duo with guns. They're trying to frame it like, oh, it's the guns are the problem. No. Guns are not the problem here. These are terrorists who will stop at nothing. And I'll read you a little bit out of this letter from a terrorist organization, a radical Islamist that directs these types of people, this father-son duo. The father, I believe, died. Son was in the hospital. He's 20-something years old. This letter from a head terrorist Islamic organization directs these types of people to stop at nothing. So, I mean, the gun, if it wasn't a gun, it was going to be explosion devices, which there were 2 IEDs there, improvised explosive devices. They didn't detonate. But like, if it's not going to be guns, it's going to be bombs. If it's not going to be bombs or guns, it's going to be stabbings. So anyway, we've got this Anthony Prime Minister fella, and he says that, it appears that the attack was inspired by ISIS and that the attackers embrace this terrorist organization, and the terrorist organization ideology, that was their motive. Okay, so now that's what the Australian officials are saying. So for a man who left the words Hanukkah and Jews out of his first statement on the attack, and who, only would appoint a special envoy to combat anti-Semitism as long as there was a special envoy to combat Islamophobia, that's quite the admission. Okay, so let me break that down for you. First statement, they don't really mention, that from the Prime Minister. He didn't mention Jews or Hanukkah in his first statement. Like, we knew that right away. It was a Hanukkah event with 2,000 Jews. You had local officials saying that the Jews were targeted, but they wouldn't even go as far as to say, like, hey, this was an act of anti-Semitism in the beginning. And then, they set up and we do this too in the United States. We set up like a a task force to combat anti-Semitism. But we would only do that if we also set one up to combat Islamophobia, which doesn't even make sense because attacks against Islamic people or Islam, they don't happen nearly at the same rate. Like, it's insane. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Jewish people are like, if there was going to be a task force, and you guys know how I feel about hate speech and racially racial laws or hate crimes. I don't like them. Like, if you're killing people, if you're committing an act of terrorism, throw the book at them, kill them, right? Death penalty. This guy shouldn't see the light of day. I mean, and if it was Jews, if it was Christians, it doesn't matter. They killed these two men, father-son duo, over a dozen people. I mean, that's all that we need to know. So yeah, I'm not a big fan of the hate crime because it's a slippery slope. You can't really charge hate. I hate Hitler. I hate the color pink, right? Or there's room for hate in society, and if you start policing that, you're gonna go down a very slippery slope. Anyway, so but it makes no sense that they've assembled a special envoy to combat in Islamophobia when it's like, and I'm throwing out numbers here, I don't have them in front of me, when it's like 2% of hate crimes are targeted towards Islamic people, and then you look over at the Jewish side, it's like 15%. I those aren't the exact numbers. I can get those for you in the break. I didn't pull them this morning. But this was quite the admission for the guy, the Australian Prime Minister, considering he was very hesitant, obviously, in his first statement to say that this was an attack on Jewish people at a Hanukkah celebration carried out by Islamic extremists. Like, he didn't say any of that in his first statement. This is a country, as well as the United States, we do this too, where they set up an anti-terror or anti-Semitism task force. But they won't do that unless they also set up an Islamophobia task force, even though the numbers don't justify setting up an Islamophobia task force. Okay, so again, he issued that first statement, no mention of Jews, no mention of Hanukkah, but I'm going to share with you this picture. You can't quite see it, but there is an ISIS flag, and this is their windshield, the attacker's windshield. Okay, this is their vehicle. And I don't know about you, but the ISIS flag and the damn windshield is a pretty clear clue that this was carried out by radical Islamist terrorists. So smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. I will get to your comments here in just a little bit after we play this press conference, a little bit of this press conference. This prime minister, he was answering a question from the press, and he said, quote, "What we know already is that as part of this investigation is it goes to motive and what is being investigated. As the commissioner has said, is that it would appear there's evidence that this was inspired by a terrorist organization." Like, oh my gosh, like, like, get the ball out of your mouth, man. Like, part of the investigation go to motive being investigated appears. Like, so much words. Just come out and say, yeah, some radical Muslim freaks started shooting Jewish people because they're religious zealots. I mean, what's so hard about that? Well, it appears. I can't stand these people. So he goes on, he says, now some of the evidence which has been procured, including the presence of Islamic State flags in the vehicle, have been seized. That's part of that evidence. So he goes on, he says the radical perversion of Islam is absolutely a problem. It's something that has been identified globally as a problem as well. ISIS was created by an evil ideology and has been called out by not just the Australian government, but globally as well. Let's take a listen to some of the press conference. Here we go. Let me share this with you. This is the Prime Minister. Here we go.
Shows advice very seriously. We work closely with them. We receive regular updates as well. The Director General of Asia has warned about a range of threats, be it anti-Semitism, the rise of right-wing extremist groups as well. And we continue to work closely with our security agencies. We take Asia's advice.
Okay. So that's a little bit of the press conference. I'm going to play some more of it here. He says it's the perversion, the radical perversion of Islam. Radical perversion, my guy. I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yeah, it is. I mean, it is a problem, but it's not the perversion of Islam. Islam is not a peaceful religion. Religion never has been, never will be. That's just not simply what the Quran teaches. We're going to get to more of that, but I'm going to share some more of this press conference. Take a listen.
A terrorist organisation by ISIS. Now, some of the evidence which is being procured, including the presence of Islamic State flags in the vehicle that has been seized, are a part of that. Radical perversion of Islam is absolutely a problem. It is something that has been identified globally as a problem as well. ISIS is created by an evil ideology that has been called out, not just by the Australian government, but globally as well.
What are you doing right now to clamp down on hate preaching? What are you doing right now? Just on that. What are you doing right now to combat hate preaching? To crack down on hate preaching?
Yeah, we have.
I don't know, like the comparison of this guy and Donald Trump in a press conference. I mean, total simp. I don't know about you guys, but his mom never put him in timeout. Yeah, a bunch of weak men in the UK, Canada, Australia. Yeah, they're very silly people. Like he's just like so like flabbergasted that there's questions coming from everybody, and it's like, you're the Prime Minister. This is huge news. You're in a press conference. Just tackle the questions. Point, reporter, yes, you. Have the reporter ask the question, answer it. I mean, I like this guy. I don't know. The glasses are dweeby, all of it. He talks about this radical perversion of Islam. I want to be very clear. This is what Islam is. Okay, there's not a perversion of it. It's been like this for centuries. Weak leaders like this guy, this simpy Prime Minister in Australia, Anthony Albanese, they think that they can somehow understand or come to an understanding with Islamists, and they can integrate Muslims into Western civilization, and that there's a way to go about this. Yesterday, I said mass migration is murder, and this is evidence of that. It's been 50 years since the mullahs took over in Iran, and almost 25 years since 9/11. And the violence has only gotten worse. Okay, so this has been going on for centuries. So at some point, we have to say that this isn't a perversion of the religion. This is just the religion. The violence is part of the religion. And still, you've got leftists and this guy claiming that Islam is a religion of peace. And, if we just strengthen the gun control laws, if we just, outlaw free speech, which I was concerned about yesterday because they were saying, like, we're going to reform our laws. We're going to do, it almost sounded like they were going to start sending police to people's doors. And in Australia over this. And, if we just do that, if we outlaw free speech, if we, punish the many for the sins of the few, we'll be able to combat this perversion of Islam, and everything's going to be just fine. But in January of 2024, ISIS, their spokesman, okay, this is the terrorist organization that they had the flags in their vehicles, the attackers. The spokesman for ISIS in January of 2024, his name is Abu Handayfa El Ansari. Whatever. He issued an audio statement in January 2024, and the statement was titled, and I'm quoting the statement, "And kill them wherever you find them." Okay, and this is referencing a verse in the Quran. The religion is inherently violent. Okay, this is a verse in the Quran. Nowhere in the Bible are you going to see this. Kill them wherever you find them. Okay, and it's calling on the lions of Islam to kill Jews and Christians wherever they can be found. And the spokesman for ISIS, this terrorist organization, advised the followers of ISIS to seek easy targets, civilian targets, religious targets, people in synagogues, people in churches, burn down churches, find the easy targets. Lions of Islam, and I'm quoting here from the audio statement, chase your preys, whether Jewish, Christian, or their allies, on the streets and roads of America, Europe, and the world. Break into their homes, kill them, steal their peace of mind by any means you can lay hands on. So guns, knives, anything you can get your hands on, do it. The statement goes on, understand that you are an arm of the Islamic State, and avenging the Muslims in Palestine, Iraq, Sham, and other Muslim countries. That this is what you're avenging the Muslims. Intentionally seek easy targets before hard ones, civilian targets before military ones, religious targets like synagogues and churches before others, for this will satisfy the soul and will demonstrate the characteristics of the battle, as our battle with them is a religious one, and we will kill them wherever we come upon them in response to Allah's almighty command. So I've talked about Allah versus Yahweh, as us as Christians, and we've got to be careful that we don't advocate for, the Jewish people. They don't believe Christ is Lord and Savior, and this is why I believe that they will never know peace in the Middle East. Here in America, we've chosen Christ. This is a Christian nation. Our values, our laws are derived from Christianity. And because of that, we are extremely blessed. We're not having to deal with Islam or radical Islamic extremism to the extent that Israel has to deal with it, and the Jewish people. We don't have to deal with that, deal with it to the extent. They've been wiped out several times, and it's really because they don't bend the knee and profess Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, and we have to be careful. But we do serve the Abrahamic God, Yahweh. Okay, Allah, the God, is who they serve, and Allah demands justice. Our God, Yahweh, is a God of justice and mercy. Allah is just a God of mercy. So, still, you've got this January 2024 audio statement saying, kill them by any means necessary, essentially, and target easy people, civilians. You've got that statement. This was in January of 2024, yet you've got the prime minister here and, the rest of the authorities in Australia not really wanting to admit that this was a terrorist attack. He finally admitted it late in the day yesterday. This happened on Sunday. At the time, on Sunday, nobody would admit that this was a terrorist attack inspired by ISIS, despite the people having ISIS flags in their vehicles. They're still trying to mince words because it says it appears. Okay, and they still haven't really settled on a clear motive, is what they said in the press conference. It's absolutely stunning. the mincing of words that goes on here, the wordplay. So officials have announced that both terrorists came to the attention of the authorities in 2019. So the father-son duo, they came to the attention of the authorities in 2019. Why they weren't apprehended and, locked away, I don't know. But they were interviewed, and it was determined that they didn't pose a threat in 2019. Okay. Now, the Australian media is reporting that, according to unnamed police sources, that the son was investigated that year. So due to his ties to a self-proclaimed Islamic State commander. So that year in 2019, this is what triggered the investigation into both the father and son. But the son, his ties to the Islamic State commander in Sydney, who was prosecuted for plotting a terrorist attack. The commander, he had ties to that guy, and that's what triggered the 2019 investigation. But somehow they found out that, or they determined that they weren't threats. Okay, so known to the authorities back in 2019, and yet they were still able to kill, 15 people? So this prime minister fella, he, somehow, is, believes that there is a threat from right-wing extremism groups still. Okay, let me pull this up. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this, but that there is a similar threat, or of the same degree, from right-wing extremism groups. Not really. Okay. I think globally we can all kind of agree that the threat is really coming from this Muslim religion that is inherently violent. The Quran mandates a revenge and vengeance, justice. You know how the left always says, no justice, no peace. Justice is ours. They're constantly screaming about justice. It's because it derives from this God not being a God of justice, and justice is yours. That is what the religion preaches. So I'm going to take a listen. Maybe he talks about the right-wing extremism here. I think I've got the right time code, but we'll see. I'm going to take a listen to more of this press conference, and then afterwards we're going to get to Nick Reiner, the 32-year-old son of Rob Reiner and his wife, Michelle. He's been arrested, but take a listen.
Passed legislation to outlaw hate speech. The first government to do so, to put in place those laws as part of our response to anti-Semitism.
Prime Minister, can you just confirm there's been a lot of misinformation flying around about the student visa that Tony Burke mentioned yesterday? Can you confirm the country of origin, whether it's India or Pakistan? And also, how long were they in the Philippines, and was that monitored by Filipino intelligence agencies?
They are all part of the investigation. So I can't go into that detail, and it wouldn't be appropriate to undermine the investigation by going into
Just a question on national cabinet yesterday. We've just broken a story in the Australian newspaper in relation to that meeting. It says state leaders were forced to push you on solutions to anti-Semitism that you didn't offer any yourself, but a draft document that was presented to state premiers contained one paragraph about the issue of anti-Semitism, and this was later changed to add a second paragraph that included existing policies that you were already working on. Why are you not announcing a suite of anti-Semitism measures right now instead of talking about gun control?
That's not true. The report is not accurate. The meeting yesterday had front and centre a commitment. Prime Minister today convened a meeting in National Cabinet following the Eagle anti-Semitic terrorist attack directed at members of the Jewish community celebrating Hanukkah at Sydney's Bondi Beach.
This is talking about the draft document that was presented to the state premiers. They had to push you on
Well, that is not accurate. It's just not right.
In that meeting,
God, the Australian media is insane. It's like, why are you talking about anti-Semitism and not gun control? That's essentially what the reporter's question was. And this guy was just tripping all over himself. And This guy just looks pathetic, sounds weak. What a pathetic little guy. Yeah. um I can't agree more with this guy. The UK, Canada, Australia, the leaders there, they're just full of weak men. Like this reporter, that would have never happened under President Donald Trump, where the reporter was just like egging him on and interrupting him. Like that would have never happened under the Trump administration. It wouldn't have even happened with Caroline Leavitt. Little blonde Caroline Leavitt would not have allowed for that to happen, where she's interrupted by a reporter as she's answering the question. Yeah, this guy's terrible. Let's get to Nick Reiner. I told you I'd deliver an update for you guys on this if I were to find out more about the Sun, because yesterday I speculated that it could have been the Sun. TMZ people, they were kind of like the first to grab this story. I thought that was odd. Typically other, ABC, CBS affiliates, the police scanners, police press releases, things like that. That's usually how crime is reported. You get some of those affiliates out there, but this was like TMZ people. So I was speculating that it was the Sun yesterday because it was just odd. There wasn't a whole lot of information. They weren't even like really willing to say that it was a stabbing right away. And TMZ people, this is like celebrity news, and it's a very gossipy culture, Hollywood, and I'm sure somebody tipped those guys off and said like, hey, it's probably Nick Reiner. These people died because the Sun's psycho. So he's the alleged stabber, murderer, Nick Reiner. They're charging him with murder. 32-year-old son of the director-actor Rob Reiner and his wife Michelle. They were killed. He has been arrested and charged in connection with the couple's gruesome murder. This was really gruesome. I guess their throats were slit. Rumors were swirling that it was the troubled son and that he was being looked at as a possible suspect yesterday overnight, and then he was finally charged with the Hollywood couple's death. They were discovered on Sunday afternoon, the bodies. And the authorities almost instantly labeled their deaths as a homicide. But like I said, they didn't really even want to talk about the details that this was a stabbing. So a lot of these tabloidy type news outlets, they were the first to report on the killing, and there was speculation in these tabloids that it was the Sun. Page 6, this is a tabloidy type news outlet. They were the first to report the shocking arrest, noting that a source at a Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office indicated that Nick Reiner was being held at the Parker Center Jail in downtown Los Angeles. Okay, so Nick, he was booked into jail on suspicion of the killings and held a staggering $4 million bail. Rob and Michelle, Rob was 78, Michelle was 68. They were discovered dead. Their bodies found... they found injuries consistent with stab wounds. Like I said, it was like very hush-hush. It was later reported that they had their throats slit in the midst of a heated argument. So I guess there was an argument and they had their throats slit. Nick was swiftly identified as person of interest by Rob Reiner's daughter, Romy. Apparently, she reported her parents dead and found the horrifying scene. I couldn't imagine that. The daughter told TMZ and investigators that there was a family member that should be a suspect and that this family member is dangerous. So Nick was then promptly and publicly he was, discussed. There was just rumors everywhere. And people were talking about his drug use, his homelessness. We know that he has discussed this in public. Rob Reiner Nick, they actually worked together on a autobiography film about the son's drug problems. Okay. And this film is called Dear Charlie. So they were very open in public about Nick's drug use. And Nick told the Los Angeles Times while promoting Dear Charlie at the time of the movie that he comes from a nice family. Quote, I come from a nice family. I'm not supposed to be out there on the streets in homeless shelters doing these things. So the last known public appearance of Nick and Rob together was in September of this year, September 2025. And they were at the premiere of This Is Spinal Tap 2. It's a sequel to Spinal Tap. And they were seen together in September. So the whole family was there. Rob, wife, Michelle, Nick, Jake, their daughter. Jake is their son, their other son. Jake's partner, Maria, like they all posed together on the red carpet for a picture. So here's where I want to talk about. Yesterday I said, like, today's not the day to talk about Rob Reiner's politics. And I'm not even going to really talk about Rob's politics because they don't matter. He's gone. Okay. He caused a lot of damage while he was alive by sharing misinformation, disinformation about the Russia collusion hoax. He did have Trump derangement syndrome. Now, I'm going to play a clip. This is MSNBC, and they've talked about how all these Republicans have attacked President Donald Trump over his Truth Social post. And I'm sure you've seen it. If not, I'll get to it here in just a little bit. But he posted something on Truth Social about Rob Reiner. I've read this Truth Social post 100 times, and I am not getting the outrage. A lot of my friends, Republican friends, have come out and like condemned President Donald Trump. Like, one, nobody's really asking you to come out and condemn President Donald Trump. Who, like, nobody cares what you think about it. Number one. Two, I've read it 100 times. I'm not seeing the big deal. It would have been weird had he not addressed the anger and the strife in that relationship. Obviously, Rob Reiner hated President Donald Trump. If Donald Trump was going to say anything, he had to address that Rob Reiner didn't like him, because it was just so clear that Rob Reiner didn't like him. Okay, so here's MSNBC. Look, I'm not gonna sing Kumbaya with the left. I've told you guys before on the show, I'm not like, I don't get devastated by celebrity deaths or singers who die. Well, a lot of them die at very old ages, and then they're like, oh, this is just so heartbreaking. I'm like, he was 80, guys. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like there's like a culture of like celebrating these or giving them sainthood, these celebrities after they die. I can respect what Rob Reiner did. He was a titan in the film industry. I told you yesterday that I fell asleep in all of his movies, so maybe I'm not much of a fan. I do like a few of the scenes, the ones that I stayed awake for. But I can respect that he was a titan and the only reason why I'm talking about Rob Reiner is because the death was it wasn't like he died of old age, you know, or like died at the age of, I mean, he was 78, but that's not what killed him. It was a stabbing. Okay, so this was newsworthy and shocking. And I knew Rob Reiner had intense political views. He was almost borderline a political activist. So I brought this up yesterday, and I didn't know who killed him. Obviously, we still don't. I mean, the son is arrested for it. We'll have to see what happens. But now I feel comfortable talking about how, you know, Rob Reiner, titan of the industry, respect what he's done for entertainment. But now we know who killed him. Allegedly killed him. And there's something to be said there, you know, about Nick Reiner and this relationship between he and his father and who Rob Reiner was. And we're going to get to the Truth Social person. I'm going to share what MSNBC did. They did like a little report on all the Republicans that were condemning this. So take the Truth Social post, take a listen.
And then there's also a lot of really interesting reaction today to the president's Truth Social message about Rob Reiner, making it about himself, saying Rob Reiner was murdered because of Trump derangement syndrome. I mean, just why get involved? Why go there? But there's a lot of Republicans who are subtweeting this or subtruthing this and saying this is awful. Marjorie Taylor Greene is one of them, but it's not just her. It's Riley Gaines, it's Thomas Massey, Sage Steele, Jenna Ellis, who was his old lawyer, who got caught up in trying to overturn the election, as David was just talking about, pretty much uniformly, other than Laura Loomer, saying that this is disgusting.
Well, first of all, I appreciate David's attempt to sort of compartmentalize the ethically corrupt, the politically corrupt, and the financially corrupt, and then putting a ranking system in place. If he ever gets down to like what the ranking system is, he should write a piece on that. I would read it. With respect to what you're pointing out, I think the through line here is that Trump is basically forcing Republicans into untenable positions on a variety of different fronts, right? One is just defending these acts of corruption that we've outlined here. I mean, how do you defend the crypto corruption, right? How do you defend building a ballroom while you're cutting food stamps and things like that? The other thing is, how do you defend mid-decade, mid-cycle redistricting when you have a state that doesn't want to do it? And then the third thing is, how do you defend indefensible, immoral, heartless, monstrous statements like the one he put up?
Oh, well, that was annoying. How do you defend the ballroom? Easy. Private donations, Republicans in the past, not even Republicans, Democrats, JFK, Barack Obama. They've done several renovations to the White House, except they use taxpayer dollars, whereas President Donald Trump is using, private dollars and not charging the taxpayers. In fact, I would say we should applaud President Donald Trump's actions with the ballroom. What else? The Indiana thing. He says the state doesn't want to gerrymander mid-decade. So what people don't know about that in Texas, this all started because Texas started redrawing their lines. Under the Biden administration pretty much said, Texas, you're racist. You have to redraw your map. And we're going to sue you because you drew your map to be racist. And you alienated Hispanic voters. So they took the opportunity and they redrew their map at the behest of the Biden administration. This lawsuit was dropped in early of 2025, I think in March of 2025. But the redistricting had already taken place, the redrawing of their maps, because, they had to answer to the lawsuit. So Trump winning this election kind of made it to where, they're redrawing. They're in the midst of this redrawing process, but they get to draw the maps how they want them now, because the Biden administration isn't forcing them to, suing them to redraw their maps because you've alienated the Hispanics. They were weaponizing the Voting Rights Act, and they sued the Texas. So really, it's kind of Biden's fault. Okay, the Biden administration's fault, because they're the ones who triggered the whole redrawing process in the first place. It just so happens that President Donald Trump got in, dropped the lawsuit, but they were already in the midst of the redrawing process, so they redrew the maps to favor Republicans. And I can easily, defend President Donald Trump calling on other red states to do the same, because look at what the blue states have done for decades. Look at what Illinois has done. We have over 45% of the electorate. I would say 45% of the electorate is Republican about, and we only have 3 Republican congressional districts. Like, it's gerrymandered out the wazoo. They've been gerrymandering for decades. What we're trying to do, and what Trump is calling for, is the red states balance this out. And really, other states started redistricting because Texas started redistricting. And I told you the origins of that. They started redistricting or redrawing their maps because Joe Biden told them to do it. Okay. So I'm not going to sit here and sing kumbaya with the left. Trump is allowed to speak his mind. The Truth Social post I'll get to here in just a second. He was accused by terrible things that he stole the elections. The Russia collusion hoax. He worked with the Russians to steal the election in 2016. Like, Rob suffered from TDS. And I mean that in the most literal sense, like suffered from a disease where Trump consumed his personality. Okay. Doesn't mean that I think that he should have been killed in this vicious way. I'm not celebrating it at all. No Republicans are doing that, not even President Donald Trump, because when I read the Truth Social post, you're going to be like, when I read it out loud, I think that you have to read it out loud. When you read it, like, just like on Truth Social, and then you read all the commentary, it sounds so much worse than what it actually is. The Truth Social post. So he's allowed to speak his mind. He was wrongfully accused of terrible things by Rob Reiner, who suffered from TDS. So many simps in the Republican Party want to be liked by the left. That's why they come out and then they, say things like Marjorie. Somebody said Marjorie Trader Grain in the comment section. You mean Marjorie Trader Green? Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene. She came out, condemned this. I've got friends who have come out and said, "How dare President Donald Trump do this? We're not like the left." Rob Reiner said very nice things about Charlie Kirk after his assassination. I say, Rob Reiner, he was a titan of the industry, but now that we know a little bit of context here about who killed him, you can definitely have a take on that. Okay. So many simps on the right and in the Republican Party, they want to be liked by the left. Okay. So they're calling out Trump for speaking the truth, really, about Rob Reiner. And he was nice in the Truth Social post, which extended condolences, said rest in peace, Robert Michelle. I am very tired of these Republicans thinking that they have got to sing kumbaya and hold hands with the left and that they're holier than thou and mightier. Like, it's just opportunistic. Like, you're trying to make friends with the left, and it's very clear. It's annoying. Since when do we pretend that celebrities are saints when they die? I don't like that. There's people out there who celebrate celebrities after they die of old age. And I've always told you on this show, I'm not going to be doing that. Like, I'm not doing celebrity birthdays. I'm like, if they die of old age, 80 years old, I mean, you can tip your hat to the work that they've done, but like, they're not saints when they die. Okay, they were industry titans, entertainment experts. Okay, so Rob Reiner was an expert in his field, a titan in the industry, the film industry, and I can respect that. So I won't come out and say that Rob Reiner was a total loser. But where it counts, like, you can be really great at your job, but you can have terrible character. Okay. You can be a very creative mind, but you can have a family life that is clearly troubled. And, objectively speaking, I don't think he was that great of a father. Otherwise, I don't think Nick would come out this way. Okay. So he gave us great films. But that doesn't mean he was a saint, and it doesn't mean that he had great character. And I think it's reflective. Like, your children are your fruit. Okay. And I know, like, everybody has their own, but you are in charge of training up that child in the way he should go. If you train up the child in the way he should go, he will not depart from it. That's what the Bible says. And this son of his, Nick, not great in character, corrupt in character. He's addicted to drugs, and he allegedly murdered his parents and slit their throats. Okay, I wouldn't say exactly the fruit, which, I mean, that's the fruit from Rob Reiner is, ripe. It's rotten. Okay, and it's probably because Rob didn't have a great character. Maybe he should have spent more time parenting rather than spreading the Russia collusion conspiracy theories, the hoax, spreading lies about the president. And I do think Trump derangement syndrome is a real thing. Not that that's what killed him ultimately, but you could make the argument that this psychosis, this liberal ideology, a leftist killed Charlie Kirk, a leftist killed Rob and his wife. Okay, this leftist ideology, not training your child up in the way he should go, this is killing people. Okay, we have to teach our children the ways of the Lord. We have to grow, give them that moral footing, so that way they don't become terrible people who slit people's throats and are addicted to drugs. Okay, so Rob Reiner had a level of TDS that was borderline psychiatric issue, like a psychosis thing. Okay, this was craziness. He spent a lot of time going after the president, was consumed and made his identity about going after President Donald Trump. Okay, so the craziness probably rubbed off a little bit. This leftist ideology, if it wasn't Trump derangement syndrome, it's just this leftist ideology that a lot of people in Hollywood have. Many people in Hollywood have crazy kids. They have psychiatric issues. You'll notice a lot of celebrities who have kids, those kids grow up with addictions. So they grow up gay, they're spoiled, they go and commit crimes. And a lot of them are just outright deadbeat losers. Okay. And it's because they didn't grow up with a moral background or a moral footing. You didn't train. These Hollywood actors, directors, celebrities tend not to have Jesus, okay, because they have created a new God and they serve a God, and that God is entertainment, okay, and money and fame, and they chase that rather than chasing the Holy Spirit and the presence of God. So these are parents typically in this industry who subscribe to hardcore liberalism. Okay, so Trump is right in this Truth Social post. Reiner himself sounded insane when he spoke of President Donald Trump. When he would speak, he sounded crazy. He subscribed to a hardcore liberal ideology. And imagine that when you have a father who subscribes to hardcore liberalism, your kids wind up on drugs. They wind up being crazy too. And I'm just saying, like, we have a mental health crisis in America, and really the mental health crisis can be pointed to one thing: liberalism, or a fake or a faux ideology. I don't know, an ideology that is none of. They make idols out of movies and songs and things that are not of God. And that is where this mental health crisis is coming from, where the trans kids are going in and shooting up people, where you've got assassins putting bullets in people's necks. Like, we have a problem here in America. And I'm going to share with you the Truth Social post President Donald Trump put out there, and I'm going to read it out loud. Okay, so here's the Trump Truth Social post. Very sad thing that happened last night in Hollywood. Wow. Okay. Very sad. That's what everybody's been saying about Rob Reiner's death. Republicans everywhere, leftists everywhere. Very sad. He goes into how Rob Reiner was tortured. He struggled, and he was talented movie director and comedy star, and he passed away together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction, a mind-crippling disease, as Trump derangement syndrome, often referred to, or sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to drive people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration has surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. Okay. Very nice. Okay. So he was very, very nice. Said that this was sad, called him talented. But he spoke his mind. And now that we know who, and President Donald Trump at the time of this Truth Social post, I'm sure that it was already, I didn't throw it up there. There it is. You can read it in its entirety. At the time he threw up this Truth Social post, everybody kind of knew that Nick was going to have to be the one, or was going to be the one who was arrested and charged. Okay. So, he's commenting on the fact that Nick grew up with somebody who quite literally has an affliction, a mind-crippling disease, and Donald Trump knows that, like, your children are your fruit. He's got many, many kids. I'm not saying that they're all perfect. Okay, that's not what I'm saying at all. But a lot of his children, like Barron Trump, I think I've talked about Barron Trump, Melania and Donald's youngest, his youngest son, Barron, said something very nice to Joe Biden on the day of the inaugural address. Everybody thought he said something like mean to Joe Biden, like you're fired or something like that, because like Joe was smiling and then all of a sudden Barron like whispers something to him and then like his face goes from like smiling to like really sad. And everybody thought that like Barron had said something mean. Actually, Barron was super nice and said something like appreciate all day or something. I can't remember the exact thing, but Donald J. Trump Jr. Talked about it on a podcast, how Barron was incredibly nice. A lot of those his children, Donald, I can tell you right now, I would be shocked to find out that one of them slit Donald J. Trump's throat. Okay. Whether that's Lara Trump, Donald J. Trump Jr., Eric Trump, I don't know. He's got so many of them. Barron. Okay. Who's the one? I'm thinking the woman, she's kind of, she's, I can't remember her name now. It's throw in and Donald Trump's kids if you guys know their names. I'm thinking of the really pretty girl. I can't think of her name. But any of these kids, I don't think that they slit the throat of their parents. Okay. And your character is reflected through your children. They're your fruit, quite literally. So that is what Donald Trump is commenting on here. Okay. And he's right. I don't understand why people are so bent out of shape from this Truth Social post. He wasn't mean. He was just speaking his mind about how this happened. We know, the raising of your children probably didn't go the way it should have. And that's probably why, Nick did what he did. When you have a psychiatric issue, Rob Reiner definitely had TDS. That's downstream. Your children pick that up and you're not training that child up in the way he should go. Of course, he's going to be a loser and drug addicted and mental health issues. So, don't think that Donald Trump said anything wrong there. I really don't. And I refuse to grift and, I can say that, Rob Reiner, very talented guy. But that doesn't take away from the fact that he did have a psychosis type disorder, TDS, and he didn't probably raise his child up in the way he should go and train him up in this faith and Christian faith. And, that resulted in him having a mental health episode, possibly, and slitting the throats of his parents. So really sad. Not saying that it's not sad, not saying he deserved it, nothing like that. We're just having a discussion of how this happened. Okay. Rational people, normal people try to come up with an explanation for things that happen that shouldn't happen, tragedies. So let me shift gears. I do want to talk about Illinois story now. Smash that like button. Ivanka. I know. I was going to say Irina, and I was like, no, that's not right. Ivanka. I appreciate you in the comment section saving me. Yeah, Ivanka Trump. I just can't imagine Donald Trump's kids slitting his throat. Okay, like that. And I'll tell you where it comes from. This evil ideology that Rob Reiner would subscribe to. It was a hardcore liberal ideology. And, I think that we have to look at the elephant in the room here. Who's killing people in these crazy tragedies? They're leftists. Who shot the bullet that launched itself into Charlie Kirk's throat? A leftist. Who killed all those Christian children in Tennessee? A radical trans ideology person. There's a theme here. So, and we can't ignore that. And I don't think that Donald Trump was willing to ignore that. And that's why he put it out on Truth Social. Let's shift gears. Let's talk about corruption. Okay. Today's episode, we're going to talk about ethics and, more accurately, the total lack of ethics in Illinois government. Okay. So according to the state's own watchdog, not a conservative think tank, not Fox News. Okay. This is not a Republican nonprofit. This is the state's own watchdog, the Illinois Office of Executive Inspector General. So the OEIG. According to them, complaints of wrongdoing under Governor J.B. Pritzker's administration, his state agencies, this has exploded. Wrongdoing has exploded by 30% under Governor J.B. Pritzker's administration. This is explosive. According to the Center Square, nearly 4,000 complaints in just one fiscal year. And the governor's response? That's good. That's good. The 4,000 complaints, the 30% increase in wrongdoing. Oh, yeah, that's what the governor said. So strap in. This is the Conservative Cat Show. If you guys want to support the program, always we do super chats at the end. Send your super chats. Or you can go to visit patriotpumpenergy.com. Get your bottle of premium pre-workout today. This is our fruit punch flavor. You just take a scoop, put it in with some water, 8 to 12 ounces. And, I would recommend you start out with a half scoop. New users start out with a half scoop, see how the caffeine, you might not be used to this amount of caffeine, although we don't put a ton in there. It's 150 milligrams. That is substantially less than what you would get on the shelves for your average energy drink. But here's how the caffeine works in this one. We pair it with a black pepper extract, so it makes the caffeine last longer. And it really enhances your focus. So I definitely think that you need to go to patriotpumpenergy.com and use the promo code ConservativeCat and energize yourself in an effective way where you're not going to get that crazy crash from the sugar and the exorbitant amounts of caffeine. All right, let's start with the facts because truth matters here at the Conservative Cat Show. Subscribe. Now, the office of OEIG, the Inspector General, Office of the Executive Inspector General. Okay. So this is the state's watchdog. They put out an annual report and they put one out for fiscal year 2025. And it shows, according to the Center Square, almost 4,000 complaints of misconduct. That's one fiscal year, folks. Fiscal year for 2025. That's a 30% increase over the year prior, 2024. a continued trend. They saw a continued trend of conflict of interest, improper secondary employment, and financial self-dealing. Okay, so this isn't a blip. This isn't one bad apple. This is systemic rot. Okay, and when rot spreads, it doesn't spread quietly. It spreads because leadership tolerates it. And under Governor J.B. Pritzker, this is not shocking. He's allowing this corruption to spread under his watch in his state agencies. He's allowing the systemic rot. Okay, so I'm going to get into what the conflicts of interest are, this improper secondary employment, financial self-dealing. So we're going to get into all of that and what that all means. But I want to quote scripture here, Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked rule, the people groan. And I can tell you right now, Illinois is groaning. In fact, I would say the people are screaming for change. And Darren Bailey, your next governor, hopefully he changes that. And like I said, we need a change at the tippity top. The legislature, they don't read any of the bills. And they just put out garbage bills anyway. And the bills that do have a huge impact are passed at like 2 a.m. by the cronies of Governor J.B. Pritzker. So if we were to just change the top position here and get outs the regime, outs the dictator, the tyrannical dictator, Governor J.B. Pritzker, if we were to oust him and replace him with a God-fearing Christian man who I believe is Darren Bailey, we'll be okay. The state agencies won't be as corrupt, I'm sure. So when Governor J.B. Pritzker was asked about the report at an unrelated Springfield event, according to the Center Square, I'm going to quote directly here, quote, "I want people to, if they're doing something wrong, they should get caught." Okay, Governor. Well, yes, they did get caught. Hundreds of them did. Thousands of complaints were made. But here's the problem. It wasn't the citizens committing wrongdoing against the government. It's the government committing wrongdoing against the taxpayers. Okay, so he says, and he's spinning this as if it's a good thing that there's multiple complaints out there. Okay, so he's framing this that the system is working. If people are issuing complaints, he says, "Oh, well, that's a sign that the system is working." He frames it as if this is proof that the system is working. No, Governor, this is proof that the system is failing at a massive scale. Okay, 30% increase under your watch. If the complaints are skyrocketing by nearly a third in 1 year, that's not accountability, that's mismanagement. Okay, so because he says the numbers are up, the complaints are up, he's spinning it and he's like, well, that means that the system is working and the complaints are being made, and that's accountability just because the complaint is issued. And I want to talk about one of the most disturbing parts of this report. Now, there's one ethical violation detailed out in this report. It involves a high-ranking agency deputy director. Okay, and he continued to hold a financial interest in a private vendor while also participating in decisions that awarded that work of a private vendor, of that same vendor. Okay, so he had financial interest in this vendor doing well. That is a classic conflict of interest. Okay, state ethics laws are designed to prevent officials from using their public authority, making decisions about this vendor, and using their public authority to benefit themselves financially. Yet the Inspector General found that these payments to the vendor increased while that official was involved in the decision-making process. This undermines, of course, public trust and confidence that contracts are going to be awarded based on merit rather than personal financial gain. Okay, so again, I want to reiterate this. This was a top high-ranking agency deputy director. He had a financial interest in this vendor that they had selected using their public authority. Okay. He had a financial interest in this vendor, participated in decisions that awarded that vendor, and the payments increased to that vendor during his time as agency director, agency deputy director. The vendor billing for subcontract work increased. So this vendor was benefiting, and this vendor was benefiting because the director wanted this vendor to benefit because he'd benefit. Okay, so this is not an oops. This is not paperwork confusion. This is textbook corruption. Okay, this is just one example from the report. One example. And only after it was exposed did the state say, oh, we're going to do an audit. We're going to implement new policies to ensure that there's no conflict of interest. We're going to do some more training. Translation. We didn't stop it while it was going on. We caught the guy and he was eventually caught. We just got, caught doing it. But now we're going to do kind of like damage control. Okay. That's what happened here with this example. Governor J.B. Pritzker, when he was asked about this increase of wrongdoing in his state agencies, the 4,000 complaints, this is an increase of 30% from the previous year. In one fiscal year, they had 4,000 complaints. He was asked, he says, oh, that's a good thing. It means that the system's working. He assured reporters too, quote, I do the training every year. That's great. We do training. We're implementing new policies. That's great. But clearly the training isn't working, my guy. Okay. The ethics training you guys do, you do ethics training, your state agency deputy directors, your directors, they do ethics training, but clearly it's not working because you have thousands of complaints, rampant conflict of interest, dozens of state employees defrauding federal programs. I'll get to that here in a second. Training without accountability. You can train all freaking day if you want to, but that's just bureaucratic theater. Like train all day, sure. Looks great on paper, but nothing, it means nothing in practice without that accountability. Fire people, get rid of those people, put good people in, put decent Christians in these agencies. And this is jaw-dropping, this report. Like I said, dozens of state employees were defrauding a federal program. This is a jaw-dropping moment of this report. The second major ethical violations, we talked about that first one with the state agency deputy director. He was benefiting financially. He had a financial interest in a vendor, and he made decisions about that vendor, awarded the vendor multiple payments, increased the vendor's payments because he had a financial interest. This is the second violation. And what this deals with is widespread fraud tied to the federal Paycheck Protection Program, okay, PPP. You guys might remember that program under COVID 2020. The Inspector General reported that more than 500 investigations into PPP fraud, that there were more than 500. So there were 500 cases of fraud opened up. Now, of those 500, 378 cases were determined to be legitimate violations, and they involved state employees, these 378 cases. Okay, 378 of them. So dozens of employees across these agencies. These agencies, like I'm talking DCFS, Department of Children and Family Services, Department of Human Services, DHS, what these employees did, illegally obtained tens of thousands of dollars each. We're talking $20,000 about each, these state employees, in emergency relief funds. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, this is odd. I thought that the PPP program, the Paycheck Protection Program, was for struggling businesses, people in the private sector. During the pandemic, I didn't realize that they were for government employees with stable taxpayer-funded salaries. I didn't understand. What are you talking about? Yeah, the program was not for government employees. Okay, so you had the fraud investigations, 500 of them, 378 of them were founded. So there were 378 founded, and of those, you've got dozens of state employees from DCFS, DHS, other state agencies, And each of these employees were stealing probably about $20,000 each from this program, because this program wasn't designed for them. Okay. It was supposed to be designed. It was designed for people and businesses that were struggling, that were deemed non-essential. That's what the Paycheck Protection Program was. So these people were paid by taxpayers, and then they stole emergency relief money meant for struggling businesses and workers. Okay, they had a steady salary coming in. There were businesses during COVID that didn't have a steady salary coming in because their businesses were shuttered during COVID. So these people stole money on top of the money that they were collecting from the taxpayers already. So if any regular citizen did this, if you weren't a state employee, okay, if any regular citizen, maybe your business wasn't shuttered during the pandemic, maybe you were deemed essential and you could remain open. Say you were a restaurant, you could still do carry out when you were a restaurant. That's what I was doing during the pandemic. I was serving up carry out meals. Okay. Now I did collect, not from the PPP program. I'm pretty sure I collected from a different one. It might have been like the Emergency American Rescue Plan Act. I can't remember exactly what program I collected from, but I think it was just like temporary type unemployment, because my paychecks were not, I wasn't getting the hours because it was carry out, right? And like, of course I applied. You took away my means, and like, where am I going to get a job during the pandemic? Another waitress job. You took away my waitressing gig. Okay. So yes. But say like your business wasn't closed completely and you filed for the PPP benefits, and like you were just a regular citizen, not a state employee. Okay. You would be labeled immediately a criminal and thrown in jail. But because these people were employed by Illinois government, they just simply resigned quietly. If they were found to have been defrauding the federal program, they resigned. Maybe they were fired, terminated, but like not thrown in jail. Maybe some are still under disciplinary action. That's not justice. Okay, a regular citizen would be thrown in jail for frauding the taxpayers who pay for that federal program. This is not justice. This is damage control, the terminating, the resigning quietly, the discipline. I want to see people in cuffs. I want to see these dozens of state employees in cuffs and thrown in jail for what they did, stealing $20,000 about each. I want to see what they do. I want to see them in prison behind bars. And then here's another ethics violation. Buckle in. We're on number 3. This is what we call revolving door. Okay, so the report also highlights violations of Illinois' revolving door ethics rules, okay, which are meant to stop former officials from immediately cashing in on their government influence. Okay, so what does this mean? Let's point to the high-profile case here outlined in the report. It involved Illinois Department of Public Health Director Dr. Nagazi Ezeki. Okay. I remember this person coming out in the press conferences and saying, "Oh, the people are dying, and you're gonna kill grandma if you go visit her for Thanksgiving." I remember this person, Nagazi Ezeki, Doctor Public Health Director. Okay, for Illinois. I remember during the press conferences. Okay, so this is a high-profile case. This person, Ezeki, accepted paid employment from an organization that had multi-million-dollar contracts with the IDPH, the Illinois Department of Public Health. Okay, shortly after leaving her post. Okay, so this director left her post, went to go to this organization that secured a multi-million-dollar contract with the state agency. So these are contracts, by the way, that she had set up. She had previous regulatory licensing authority over these contracts, and the inspector general found that this is a violation of the Ethics Act, and then they imposed a 6-figure fine on this woman, Ezeki. So Such conduct here raises serious concerns about officials using public office as a stepping stone for a lucrative private sector opportunity tied directly to their prior government power. Do you see the problem here? Okay. She got this cozy job in the government, awarded this private company, this organization, a contract, a hefty contract where they'd be paid with taxpayer dollars to do a job for the government. And then she left her government job and went to go work for the organization. I mean, this is lucrative private sector opportunities that she secured using her government power, using her position as the public health director, the Illinois Department of Public Health director role. So the OEIG, the Office Executive Inspector General's office, issued 2 six-figure fines for ethics violations, one of them involving the Dr. Ngozi Zike. Also, according to the Inspector General, she had accepted employment and compensation from an entity. That entity had $4.2 million, and this is according to the Center Square, in contracts with the IDPH, contracts that she set up, contracts she had authority over just 1 year earlier. That's not service. That's not public service. That is leveraging public office for private gain. And the Illinois Democrats want you to believe, oh, this is rare. This stuff doesn't happen. It's not. It's increased by 30% under JB. This is the culture in Illinois. State Representative Brett Holbrook, quoted in the Center Square, said that this is what the ruling class refuses to admit, quote, when there's government money, there's going to be fraud and abuse. Yeah, exactly. Big government doesn't create compassion. They don't create opportunity for people. They create opportunities for themselves, and then they enrich themselves. Okay, so they're not compassionate. Remember this, when Dr. Ngozi Zike, the public health director, is out there saying, don't kill grandma. We want to be compassionate. We're all in. We're trying to help everybody during COVID. We're in this together. Remember this when you think that the left is compassionate. She says all of that out in the press conferences, tells you not to go visit grandma for Thanksgiving. Then she turns around and, she secured the $4.2 million in contracts for this private organization that she goes and later works for the year after. So here's the problem. The Democrat supermajority that presides over this corruption is also responsible for overseeing it. You see what I mean? So, there's no accountability. We have all of these complaints, and then JB says, oh, we have all this training and we have these ethics laws, but it's kind of like the fox watching the hen house. Okay. Nobody's really holding the fox accountable because they're chickens, you know what I mean? So nobody holds the fox accountable, and it's like asking the fox to audit the hen house. They're just we have to get this supermajority under control. But I think that it really starts from the top down, getting JB out of there. Illinois doesn't have an ethics problem. We have a leadership problem. And we have to demand transparency, accountability, limited government, moral clarity. Otherwise, nothing's going to change. And we need somebody moral above all else. You can be smart as a whip, but that's not going to get you where Illinois needs to go. You need to vote Christian conservative in that order. It has to be very clear that this person is of moral integrity and moral clarity. And that's why I love Darren Bailey. He's feeling, or he's been led to do something that he clearly doesn't have to do or want to do. He's being kind of forced into public service. People want him to run. And that tells me all I really need to know about his moral character. When God says go do it, he does it. So scripture reminds us in Luke 16:10, whoever can be trusted with very little can be also trusted with much. So Darren Bailey, being that God told him, go run for office again. He ran for governor in 2022, ran for Mike Boss' seat, lost both times. And, any other man, I think, would be defeated and would say, all right, God, like, I'm done. Stop calling me to this. I'm not going to listen to it anymore. And then God taps on his shoulder again and says, hey, I want you to run in 2026 again against Governor J.B. Pritzker. And, that's a little calling, in comparison to being actual governor. Hey, I want you to launch a campaign. God says this to Darren, and I'm, paraphrasing. Darren talks about this stuff on his lives all the time. I want you to go run for governor, and that's something very little in comparison to actually doing the job of running a state with a huge state. Okay. But if he can be trusted with that, hey, I want you to go launch your campaign, and he says yes, then he can be trusted with much. So Illinois government has proven again that it can't be trusted. And I just don't think that it can. All right, I got to take a quick break, but you're going to be right. You're going to be hanging out with me right when I get back. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe to the channel.
Check your blind spots. Men love to call things out. Weakness, hypocrisy, failure. We're wired to spot threats and take action. But Jesus didn't say, never judge. He said, judge not, that you be not judged. Why? Because judgment without humility is a trap. It turns you into a sniper with a log jammed in your eye. Matthew 7 hits hard. Jesus calls out a man who sees a speck in his brother's eye, but ignores the plank in his own. He's not saying, don't correct. He's saying, clean your lens first. Self-examination before confrontation. It takes guts to get real with your own sin, to admit you've gone soft, to face your pride, lust, laziness, or bitterness head on. But that's what real men do. They sharpen themselves before they sharpen others. Jesus didn't just want behavior police. He wanted heart warriors. Men who get the plank out, then humbly help a brother see clearly. Men who don't just flex spiritual authority, but walk with spiritual maturity. In verse 6, it's about discernment. Don't toss holy things to pigs. Don't waste truth on ears that mock it. Know when to speak. Know when to walk away. Before you blast through your next workout, check your form. Same with life. Patriot Pump fuels clean, focused energy, but you've still got to show up. Power with purpose. Clarity with strength. That's how you train. That's how you lead.
Hey, smash this like button, subscribe, tell someone to subscribe today. I so do appreciate you being here. We've got one more story, so stick around. Senator John Kennedy. So he got his hands on an internal memo from the Minnesota Attorney General's office that proves that the state of Minnesota was well aware of the Somali fraud going on. So we just talked about fraud going on in the Illinois government. This is a perfect example. And like I said, this kind of stuff goes on nationwide. Pretty much every state is doing this, where they're funneling tax dollars into a nonprofit who says that they're doing some feel-good mission, and there's no accountability to ensure that they are doing and carrying out their feel-good mission and actually serving people that we're paying them to do with taxpayer money. And that's kind of what's going on here with Minnesota and the Somalians who were running these nonprofits. Okay, Somali immigrants through Feeding Our Future. This is a nonprofit organization that was tasked with feeding hungry children, but they weren't doing that. These couple of these Somali immigrants actually were spending money on cars and luxuries, and like, that's what happens. Okay. And I'm just going to play Senator John Kennedy here for you. Hold on. Let me pull up the clip. Sorry, folks. I should have done this in the break. Okay, so here's the clip of Senator John Kennedy. There's an internal memo he brings up, and they chose not to do anything about the fraud. Why? Because they didn't want to lose votes from the Somalians for exposing the fraud. Take a listen.
Feeding Our Futures went to the state and said, if you stop giving us this money, we're going to call you racist and we're going to sue you. And you don't want to be in the news. Now, here's what, and you say, well, why didn't the employees do something? They did. They told the people higher up, the people with the flags in their office. And you know what they did? Nothing. You know why? Well, here's what the legislative auditor in Minnesota said. He said that the threat of litigation and the negative press affected how the state politicians use their regulatory power. And here's what a fraud investigator in the Attorney General's office said. She said, there is a perception that, I'm quoting now, that forcefully tackling this issue would cause political backlash from the Somali community, which is a core voting bloc for Democrats. Feeding Our Futures went to the state and said, if you...
Okay. So according to Kennedy, an investigator is quoted, okay, an investigator is quoted as saying forcefully tackling this issue would cause political backlash from the Somali community, which is the core voting bloc for Democrats. Okay, this was an investigator into the fraud of Feeding Our Future. This is what an investigator from the Minnesota Attorney General's office. So this was regarding that scandal, the Feeding Our Future scandal. According to Fox News, no case in Minnesota's sprawling fraud scandal captures the scale of taxpayer abuse like Feeding Our Future scheme, in which the program's director signed off on a sham meal services for the poor, only to have men around her splurge on mansions, luxury cars, and lavish lifestyles. So here's how it works, right? The taxpayer dollars go into Feeding Our Future, which is this nonprofit organization, okay? The Feeding Our Future's director, the program's director, would sign off and say, yeah, this money is going towards a meal service we're providing for hungry children. But really, it's not going to hungry children. Really, it's going to Somalian immigrants who are splurging on mansions. And it's still being investigated that some of this money could have potentially gone to a Shabab, I don't know, a terrorist organization, okay, rather than going to the men to splurge on luxury mansions and cars. Some of this money was being funneled right back, potentially to terrorist organizations, Somalian terrorist organizations. So the scheme was headed by Amy Bach, the founder and executive director of Feeding Our Future, an organization responsible for ensuring needy kids didn't go hungry during the COVID pandemic. So Bach presided over a network that claimed to have served 91 million meals, for which the scammers fraudulently received $250 million in federal funds. Okay. So she's claiming, oh, we're serving 91 million meals. Are you, though? And then the scammers got $250 million. So Bach, who was convicted by a federal jury in March 19, 2025, for wire fraud, conspiracy, and bribery for her role, was dubbed the scheme's mastermind behind federal prosecutors. See, I don't really buy all that. That she was the only mastermind. I think that she's the fall guy. Right? I think that probably some of these masterminds would be the Democrat politicians who want the Somali vote. Maybe these Somalians men who enriched themselves with the lavish lifestyles and luxury cars, had an in with the key voting bloc of these Democrats. And I think, to be honest with you, we're going to find out who the masterminds were. And I don't think it was Amy Bach. I don't think that she was the only mastermind behind this. So the left claims that they're all in it to help people, that they're very compassionate and they want to help the less fortunate. When they claim that, I want you to remember the story. Okay, because while they pretend to do good things for hungry children, there are people using that money to fund their lavish lifestyles. This executive director, I don't know how much she makes, but the same thing goes on here in Illinois. There are hundreds upon hundreds of nonprofits who get taxpayer money to do what exactly? I don't know, because there's no accountability here. We just give them the money and we assume that they're going to do good things with that money, and there's no accountability check. And these executive directors are getting paid hundreds upon thousands of dollars in a salary, $100,000 salary, $200,000, $300,000 salaries. And it really just funds their lavish lifestyles. And left would rather turn a blind eye to this because, oh, it's going to cost them votes. And here's what it is. The nonprofit organizations, you got the $300,000 salary folk. But in these nonprofit organizations, like Feeding Our Future, I'd imagine, they employed a lot of Somalian people, your regular people here in Illinois. There's a lot of Chicago type nonprofits that get these taxpayer dollars, and then they're enriching the executive directors. But below the executive directors are the people who aren't really paid a whole lot to be there. And they're like the boots on the ground doing some of the mission work, or they're posting on social media. And those are the votes. Okay, that's their job. And in exchange for them working for this nonprofit, you have to not only go vote for Democrats, but you have to go lobby for more cash at the Capitol. Okay, so if you're surprised by any of this, you haven't been paying attention. Let this be your reminder that when the left claims that they are here to help people, that could not be further from the truth. Okay, I'm going to take a quick sip of water, and then we're going to get into Kamala Harris because I got one more, and I think I've got enough time for it. So subscribe to the channel. Delicious. Okay, subscribe to the channel while you're here, and tell someone to subscribe today. That's huge. More subscribers. That means that this microphone stays on. You can always support the program. Visit patriotpumpenergy.com. Use promo code ConservativeCat. I'll take your super chats at the end of the program today. Kamala Harris, there are reports circulating that she is not giving up. She hasn't given up, even though this woman did not win a single swing state in 2024, and she appeals to literally no one. According to Axios, Kamala isn't planning to go gently into the night. Okay, to go gentle into that good night. This week, the former vice president made it clear to her potential 2028 rivals that she's going to keep working, and she is going to keep a White House campaign viable. She's going to keep going, and she's going to try to make another White House campaign viable. And you see, the only reason this woman got as far as she did was because of her insignificant birth traits, because she was black. I use that in air quotes because is she really? I don't know. But because she's black ish, she and a woman, she was chosen for VP. That was the only reason why she was chosen. And she was later selected as the presidential candidate after no one voted for her. So I think that she's going to have a very hard time earning the Democrat nomination the good old-fashioned way. But time is going to tell. Okay, because I would imagine her being installed, was the only reason why she got to where she was. Her being selected for her insignificant birth traits was the only reason why she got VP. Despite worries from party leaders and donors that she can't win, okay, Harris, she remains near the top of the 2028 Democratic primary polls. So despite all that, despite people not liking her, or even people in her own party, the donors, the leaders of her party, they don't like her. She's leading in the polls in a Democrat primary. So she, I guess, has strong black strong support with the Black community. That's according to Axios. Okay, I would argue that she lost bigly against President Donald Trump when it came to the Black vote. But I digress. If she wants to win, she has to increase that support amongst the Black vote. But again, I think that's something that she's going to struggle with. Something tells me that it's not going to be easy for her. And like, if she's got to go about this the old-fashioned way, I don't think she's going to make it very far. Okay, so Axios says, after lying low for the first part of this year and, focusing on her book tour, Harris made several moves this week that many Democrats see as the beginning of a 2028 campaign. At a reception on Wednesday evening last week, DNC chair Ken Martin introduced Doug Emhoff, her husband, as he introduced him, the DNC chair, introduced this guy as the second gentleman, and then he quipped, and he was kind of like funny about it, and he said, well, he could be the potential first gentleman, and people who heard those remarks at the reception told Axios those remarks. Second gentleman, now he wants to be the first gentleman. Oh God. Oh boy. So here's Harris. She's quoted here. She says, quote, she's quoted in this Axios report, both parties have failed to hold the public's trust. The government is viewed as fundamentally unable to meet the needs of the people. People are done with the status quo and they're ready to break things to force change. Okay, so Kamala Harris, honey, you oversaw the worst border crisis in American history. You have not met the needs of the people. Does she think that she's met the needs of the people while she was in office as vice president, as essentially president, because we know Joe Biden was just mush? Okay, what does she think about the inflation? The worst inflation ever, and it was due to her two tie-breaking votes, the American Rescue Plan Act and then the Inflation Reduction Act, ironically named. Okay, she was the tie-breaking votes on all of those, or both of those, and that caused the worst inflation in American history. What does she think about that? Was that meeting the needs of the people? I was in Aldi yesterday. Eggs are $1.94. That's insanity. Okay. In the height of 2022, height of inflation during the Biden administration, you want to know how much I was paying for eggs? $6 a freaking dozen. It's down to $1.94. Like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you met the needs of the people. No. Okay. In fact, you didn't meet any of the needs of the people. And I don't know if she's forgot that. I don't know if she's just truly delusional. And she thinks that she made your life better off while she was in the vice presidency. But something tells me that she is forgetful. She forgot her time in office. And she is delusional. I think it's a little bit of both. So this is what she says about President Donald Trump. She says, we can't afford to be nostalgic for a flawed system that has failed so many. She argued that President Donald Trump is a symptom of a bigger problem. So what she's trying to say here is that people are so fed up with the system and that Donald Trump is a symptom of the people being fed up. Donald Trump is not a symptom of a problem. Like, there's no problem with Donald Trump. He's made my eggs $1.94. Okay. I can't remember. I mean, I filled up my gas, my gas tank, $35 to fill up. Under the Biden administration, it was double. It was $60, $70 to fill up my Ford Bronco. Okay. Did she realize that Donald Trump won because of the mess she created? Okay, she helped create, if not created solely because, again, Joe Biden's brain was mush. Like, my goodness, this woman is nothing. She stands for nothing, provides nothing, but more of the same bureaucracy that installed her. Okay. And it's doubtful that even they want her back, the bureaucracy that installed her. Okay. I don't even think that the donors want her back, the party leaders. And, you know, she lost in a landslide. I think that they think that it's not worth it. They don't want to put their eggs in that basket. She's unlikable. This woman is delusional, arrogant to the extreme. And the fact that she thinks that a second run would be remotely successful for her shows that this is nothing more than a personal problem. And she's got issues. She's got issues. Yeah, I'll tell you right now, you got 99 problems, Kamala Harris. Donald Trump ain't one. Ain't one of those problems. All right. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Appreciate you being here. Let's see. I want to get to some of your comments. Fraud Democrats, traitor rhinos are one giant domestic enemy. Commie infiltration. Yes. Now, I will say, Danny, that I, having just recently moved out of the Pritzker stand, lived there my entire life, still have family there, but moved. I will say that the Republicans in Illinois are nothing like the Southern Democrats here. Like, it's bizarre. I would say that the Southern Democrats in the United States are more Southern Democrats are more conservative than the Republicans in Illinois. You're living in a state where it is uniparty, complete uniparty. So yeah, you're right. The traitor rhinos, the fraud Democrats, they are domestic enemy. Yeah, of the people, we the people. Appreciate you guys being here. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe. We'll be back again tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Time. Bye-bye. Love you so much.